Good evening, my name's Ade Hardy and welcome to Raconteurs Too. I believe this world belongs to all of us, not just the chosen few, and that's why I'm here. Thanks to Chuck O'Celli on autonomousmedia.net, and of course you can catch tonight's show live on autonomousmedia.net and of course on the podcast on raconteursnews.com. Tonight we've got a guest with us who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, but first I just want to tell you tonight's show is entitled Opposites Distract. That will all come clear, and I'm going to introduce my very special guest tonight. Good evening, Mr. Jason Holmes.
Good evening. Very special. Do you mean that in the sense of I'm special, or as I'm special?
Well, my mum always used to tell me I was special, and I know yours does too.
Yeah.
Although, for those of you that don't know, Jason's had another trip into hospital, and when I spoke to him earlier this morning, he was a bit worse for wear, bless him, but he seems to have come round a bit, so I'm pleased to have Jason with us, because otherwise I'd just be talking to Skype all on my own tonight, so thanks for joining us, mate.
Hey, listen, no problem, yeah, it was, I was woken up on the settee and tripped as I stood up and smashed my head against the radiator, knocked myself clean out, and I spent the night in hospital. So, but I'm fine now. Everything is good.
It's amazing what people do for jelly and ice cream. Right, okay, let's talk about opposites distract. Well, there's lots of those. I'm not going to give you a quick example. What I'm going to do is, instead of tonight me interviewing our guest, I'm going to get our guest to interview the host, because opposites distract. So, Jason, go ahead, interview me.
Well, why don't you start off by telling us why you've called this Opposites Distract? Is it this particular, just this episode, or is it going to be an ongoing thing?
Yeah, it probably might be a sort of an ongoing thing, because I think the whole thing about what this truth movement is about is the opposites distract. I'll give you one very, very quick example, and hopefully as the show goes on, there'll be lots more that come out. Opposites distract. The Ministry of Defence. Ministry of Defence. They're not the Ministry of Defence, they're the Ministry of War. The word defence is just there to distract you from what's really going on. You know, we've been in perpetual war for years. They're not defending. When was the last time somebody, an army invaded England, Scotland, Ireland or Wales? Not in my lifetime, and I'm 50 years of age. So, Ministry of War, not defence, they're the Ministry of War. And that's exactly what the world is full of. Whether you see it on the news or any walk of your life, there will be things there that are there to distract you, to keep us all in our, little bubble and distracted from what's really going on. Now, one thing I have to say that the most special gift was ever given was given to me by you, Jason. And that's because you gave me the kick up the arse to wake up and stick my head down the rabbit hole. Now, all over this truth movement, there are hundreds, thousands, and hopefully hundreds of thousands of people who are waking up, although I hate that phrase, and there are probably 20 times that keep pressing the snooze button. They kind of know there's something wrong, but it's easier to, look after your mum, not put any time aside. Well, we're all busy. Even retired people will tell you, I don't know how ever have time to go to work, because we're all busy. We all fill our lives. And whilst we're all happy to preach to the choir and the converted, we need a bigger choir. We need to convert more people. And what struck me, I was with you, Jason, actually, down in Nottingham, and a couple of months ago, just before Christmas, and somebody stood on the stage and said, I've woken up, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was, I can't even remember the chap's name, and he said, I just became a bore, because I'd meet somebody in the supermarket, and an hour and a half later, I was still talking to him, and I'd done education, I'd done money, I'd done politics, I'd done every walk of life. And I think what we need is what I call an elevator statement. Now,
Okay.
I don't take an elevator statement. I don't take any credit for anything that I'm going to say here tonight, because everything I'm going to say, I got from somebody else and I researched it, and, you know, it was me sticking my head down the rabbit hole. What I mean by an elevator statement, I spent 2 decades of my life working as a financial advisor. And even when I was doing that, I knew there was something wrong. And I've got a bag full of qualifications and letters after my name, and that all mean absolutely jack shit. And I went on this training course. It was probably one of the first ones I ever went on. And the guy who was on the training course, who was taking the course, he said, what you need is an elevator statement. And I thought, what does that mean? Well, an elevator statement is something where if you get in an elevator, a lift, with somebody you've never met, by the time it's got to the 10th floor, in a couple of seconds conversation, you can say what you do in a very, very short sentence. And mine was, I provide cost-effective financial solutions for people just like you. Now, what I think we can do is get elevator statements for all of these different subjects that are all in the truth movement. So rather than meet somebody in the supermarket and blow their arse off for an hour and a half so that they just walk away thinking you're a nutter, if we could come up with some of these elevator statements, these one-liners, you know, and if over the next coming weeks I say one thing, one of these elevator statements, these one-liners, that somebody who's listening, either live or on a podcast, says to one person, one of these one-liners, and we've yet to come up with them all, and I'm sure we will tonight, that makes somebody stick their head down the rabbit hole and have a look, then I've done my job. Because I'd like to think that what we can do is not only preach to the converted. Every day is a school day. I have never listened to a podcast from anybody from this truth movement and not learned something, ever. But I'm the converted, and so are you, Jason. So what I think we ought to do is try and spread our wings and come up with these elevator statements, these one-liners.
Well, I think that's perhaps something we can throw out there. If anybody's got an elevator statement that perhaps sums up a particular issue, you know, we've all been in the situation where you start talking to somebody and their eyes suddenly roll.
Oh, yeah.
Because perhaps they've encountered you before, they know you from before, or they actually know you very well, and their eyes start to roll because they know that you're just gonna be, when they say something, you're just gonna be completely opposite. Yeah, and there's also a part of that where people do think that you're just being Johnny Opposite. Yeah,
that's right. And I mean, I am now single, living on my own, because. Well, you and I, Jason, we sort of set up a group in Sheffield, which sadly got infiltrated, as they always do. And the young lady that I'd met at that, fairly, actually not far from about the same time, we ended up moving in together, or I moved into her house, and she used to describe those meetings as my nutters meetings. Now, I still love this lady dearly, and she knows I do, but sadly we can't live together because I'm just a nutter. And I don't sort of, there's no accusation in what I'm about to say. She keeps pressing the snooze button. She knows what's sort of going on because she got fed up of listening to me so much that I ended up living on my own, and I'm now an ex. So, but I would still say that the greatest gift anybody ever gave me was the kick up the arse that Jason gave me to stick my head down the rabbit hole and have a look. And once you know something, I always knew there was something wrong, but once you know something, you can't unknow it. And once you're at that stage, I mean, I just went crazy. I mean, once I'd realised there was something wrong, I mean, I was reading everything. I'd be ringing Jason up at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, and anyway. So let's see if we can come up with some of these.
Yeah, just going back to that, Ade. I just want to point out that you were ringing me up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was when you knew, because we were both DJs.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'd finish at 3, and I'd come home, and when you were on your way home, you'd phone me up. So,
that's right.
You weren't being antisocial with me or anything. So, please, once you become aware, you don't just start ringing people up at 3 in the morning.
No, I mean, I used to manage to run a nightclub DJing and watch a load of YouTube videos. So I'd got the clubbing one ear in my headphones and I'd got YouTube in the other ear, and I did that for months and months and months, and the one thing that pissed me off, that really, really pissed me off, is that this world really is for everyone, and the one thing that I just could not get my head round was 13 families own everything. And when I say everything, I mean fucking everything, including 99% of the world's population's brain. They own the lot. And that is what ties it all together. And the thing that I could not get my head round was, how can somebody do that? Not a group of people. How could any one person do that, let alone however many's in these 13 families? This world is for everybody. We're all born equal, aren't we? I think we are. Don't matter what your colour is, what religion you are, it's irrelevant. And yet we've got, 13 families of elite, or what they think they're elite, bastards, who, they just want to own everything. And it's not all about money, it's all centred around money, but it's not all about the money, it's about the power. And that's what I couldn't get my head round. And one thing I would say to anybody, no matter what stage of becoming aware or waking up or whatever words that you want to put to it, is the object of being here is to be happy. And it took me a long time to do that, because I was so pissed off for about 2 years. I saw a t-shirt once, the truth will set you free, but at first it will really piss you off. Fucking right it did. How can anybody take all that from everybody else and be just like a bunch of leeches that just suck on everybody else? Because that's all they are. And, now I'm happy with life. There are things that I wish that were different, but, I'm here. I'm reasonably healthy, and my mate, Jason Holmes, somehow is still here, despite all his millions of visits to the hospital. But the one thing that does really always resonate with me is, I've never been involved in anything where there have been so many people who are altruistic. In other words, they do things because they can. They share information because they can. Not for an ego, not for money or whatever. Alright, there are a few people with the websites and they've got a donate button, which hopefully gives them enough money to carry on doing what they're doing. But I've never been involved in anything where there's so much out there for free. So there are no excuses. Yes, there's misinformation out there. I've watched that and I've sucked it in and believed it for a while, and then after a while, when your brain's sort of stacking all the boxes in the right order again, you get to learn what's right and what's wrong, and normally if it's your gut telling you, then your gut's normally right. But as I say, if we can come up with a few of these elevator statements, that's all we can ask to do. Money. Well,
sorry, can I just interrupt, Eddie? I just want to make a point. I mean, there are tons of people out there that wake up, if you want to call it that. But the one thing that you bring to this is passion, and I think that's probably what we can expect in your shows in future.
Oh yeah, I mean, I expect tonight to be a bit of a rant. I expect the language to be dreadful, because it really does come from my heart. It absolutely destroys me that these people, these elite, can be such bastards. And that, I mean, honestly, for 2 years, that destroyed my life. It really did. So much so that I'm now sat here on my own and I'm no longer engaged. And I don't blame anybody else other than me for that. And I certainly don't blame Jason. As I say, I left being an independent financial advisor more than 10 years ago. But even then I knew there was something wrong. I just didn't know what it was. I just did not know. And for me, money is the main umbrella that covers everything. And once you get your head around that there are 13 families that own everything, and they control the money, all the rest of the pieces will start to fit together. Now, I tried to sort of put all these, God knows how many subjects, into some kind of mental order, and I failed. And the reason you fail is because everything is intertwined, interconnected, and just shook up in one big massive bag. And that's why, until somebody gives you an elevator statement that makes you stick your head down the rabbit hole, nobody can look at the big picture. And that one elevator statement is different for everybody. Jason, for a long time, you were chipping away at me and chipping away at me and chipping away at me and chipping... And I just used to think, Jason's got something, but he's a bit mad. A bit of a nutter, bit of a weird way of looking at things, you know.
It's the first time anybody's ever called me mad.
Yeah. If there's anybody ever going to be in trouble with bailiffs, it'll be Jason. If ever there's anybody going to be in trouble with the police, it'll be Jason. Not for anything bad, not for stealing anything or doing anything wrong, but... And then one day, I don't know, and I've been racking my brains thinking what it was. And I think the big opposite that was distracting me was money. I just couldn't admit to myself that for more than 20 years, working as an independent financial advisor with a bag full of letters after my name and God knows what, that mean nothing. You know, it just means I can pass a test. Well, what do you do? It don't mean anything. And one night, sat in this nightclub with one earphone listening to the music out front and the other earphone searching around on YouTube, I found a little video called Money as Debt. Now, if anybody's not watched Money as Debt, I absolutely beg you, go and watch it. An idiot could watch it and understand it, and I'm living proof of that. An idiot did sit and watch it and understood it. I'd been indoctrinated to believe exactly the opposite of what this video was showing you. I'd spent years studying exams in mortgages, pensions, unit trusts, every branch of finance you could imagine. And I sat and watched this. And at the end of it, I just thought, you dozy bastard. How could you have been so stupid? Now, I'm going to go through briefly what Money as Debt is. It's a cartoon. It's no more complicated than Family Guy or, Mickey Mouse or whatever. And it goes right back to the beginning when we were all walking around with a little cloth bag full of gold, full of silver. And we were all walking around and we were, how much for your sheep? 2 pieces of silver. How much for your goat? How much for your chicken? How much for your eggs, etc. And then, obviously, people were getting robbed. So these banks pop up. And these banksters said, well, leave your money in my bank. So off you'd go with your bags of gold or bags of silver or whatever it was, and you would put your monies in the bank. And you would be given a loan note because you had loaned your money to the bank. Now this loan note said, say it was silver, £10 of silver, £10. Whereas now it's £10 of what? £10 of nothing. But back then, £10 of, say, silver.
Which is why we have sterling.
Exactly. Now, then what happened was, you go along to a guy and say, how much for your chickens or how much for your goats or whatever, and he'd say, well, £10 of silver. Well, instead of me going to get me £10 of silver out of the bank and then giving it to you and then you put it back in the bank, why don't I just give you this loan note? Now, in reality, what probably happened was the bank would give you 10 £1 of silver loan notes because they were easier to exchange, money exchange, see where the words are coming from. Now, once the banks realised that they got all these people's monies, nobody would think for a second that, say, all of their 1,000 customers would come to them on the same day and want their money all in one go. What we'd now call a run on the bank. So, what the bank started to say was, well, look, okay, you want to spend £10 of silver, but you've only got 5. We'll lend you the other 5. And initially, they'd physically do that. They'd physically give you 5 more pounds of silver, pieces of silver, whatever. But very quickly they realised, because everybody wasn't going to come on the same day and ask for their money back, who was to know if ever they gave loan notes out for more than they'd got? Who'd know? Well, nobody. Because nobody was ever going to come on the same day, all in one go, and all ask for their money back. So what you'd find then was the banks were there effectively giving loan notes out for monies that they didn't have on deposit. And that's where, in today's banking system, we get fractional reserve lending, which in a nutshell means the banks can lend out monies based on a fraction of what they've actually got on deposit. So, listen, it is much more complicated than this, but if I put it really simply, I go to the bank and I say, I want to borrow £1,000 because I've got a couple of windows in the back of the house that want replacing. And they go, yeah, not a problem. And they just tap on a keyboard and £1,000 appears in my account on a screen. Now, nobody actually went to a vault and moved it into my little box in the corner. This stuff didn't exist. Nobody printed it. They just magicked it into existence on a computer. Mm-hmm. Now, that's okay, because I don't care. I've got £1,000 to spend. All right, they want a bit of interest. And then let's just talk about that interest for the minute. There is now less than 2% of money that's supposedly in circulation has actually been printed. Less than 2%. Now let's imagine we've got all the money in the world in a swimming pool. And all of that money is shifted into another swimming pool because it's already been lent out. But the banks still want their interest. Where's it come from? The system is designed to fail. And it's designed to fail in such a way that it's not me or you that's going to come out well out of it. It's designed so that the banks are going to come out well. Because what happens is, I've got £1,000 in my account. It didn't come from anywhere, they just magicked it there. So then, Jason, you could come along and you could say, well, I need £10,000 for a new car. Now, because I've got £1,000 in my account, they just add a naught. And they can turn that into £10,000. That's the fraction, 10. So now we've got £10,000 in 2 transactions that's been created from absolutely nothing, other than somebody tapping it into a computer. Then, I don't know, 3 guys who live just around the corner from me could decide that they want to set up a second-hand car garage and they need £100,000 worth of overdraft to go buy some stock. So they go to the bank, and the bank look at it and they go, well, Jason's got 10 grand in his account, so we just add a note and we can lend them £100,000. Don't have to exist, we can just tap on a keyboard and away we go. And then we can get 4 guys who live in the next village to me can say, actually, we're thinking about setting a nightclub up in Sheffield. We need £1 million. Well, they just add a note and away you go. So that's 4 transactions and £1 million created from nothing. Absolutely nothing. And this happens hundreds and thousands of times every day. Now, of all the 20 years that I was in the finance industry and all of the economists that I spoke to, all of the things I read in the economy media and things that I watched, not once did anybody explain fractional reserve lending to me. Because the real answer to where does money come from is out of fucking thin air. That's where it comes from. It's a fiat currency. It is worth nothing. It is only worth something because you and I see that it's got a value. I mean, it used to actually say things on it like, £20 sterling, I promise to pay the bearer. I don't say any of that crap on it now. We've even got a fiver that you can see through. you know, I mean, if that doesn't tell you something, money is not a positive, it's a negative. Money is only debt. When you put your money in your savings account, you are lending it to the bank. You are creating a debt. Here's a good one for you. If you've got a credit card with a £5,000 limit on it that you've never used, you applied for it because you were going on holiday and should you have an emergency, that was the cheapest card there was to have, and you just put it in your wallet on a just in case, the bank can lend out 50 grand because they've just had a note, because as far as they're concerned, that is available credit to you. So it's not what you've got in your account, it's what you could have in your account if you chose to spend it. You know, this is so multi-faced, it's unbelievable. So when I say, when I've just gone through the 10% thing, that's an incredibly simplified version of it. But that is how it all works.
Oh, it's simple enough for a special man, anyway.
Well, yeah, for a special man, yeah. So if somewhere in there's an elevator statement that somebody can come up with, but money is not a positive, it's a negative. Money is debt. There's the elevator statement. Money is debt. And that's an opposite that's there to distract you. Because we all think we can get positive things with it. You know, we can buy a cup of tea with it, we can buy a car with it, we can buy a microphone, a computer, a piece of paper, we can buy whatever you want with it. But it's not. It's created as debt.
Yeah, you see, Ade, we've got this problem that when saying that money is bad, if you say to somebody money is bad, we've got this such a childish mentality that we'll go, somebody will say to you, well, if you don't like it, I'll have all yours if you want. Give me all yours, you know.
You see, nobody can deny that you can't go buy nice things with it. I mean, I've got a nice motorbike, and I had to part with some debt to get rid of it. But even the stuff in you know, it's money is only ever created as debt. You know, when I started in the finance industry, you're just left to assume a lot, like, you know, the Bank of England print the money. Well, they do the little bit that's actually been printed, but all the rest is created by private banks. Even the Bank of England is a private bank. It is no more of England than a Welshman who's never been to England. It just isn't. It's a private company. Now, here's the big thing. When I said that these 13 families own everything, if you were the government and you were really, really in charge, no matter what colour tie you wore or who you got to vote for you, we'll come to all that in a minute, and you were in charge of printing the money, if you really, really wanted what was best for everybody in that country, if you really represented them, would you A, print the money yourself, or would you B, get your friends who own the banks, who were really telling you what to do, to print it so they could charge you interest on it?
Absolutely.
Now, there is no reason, there is nothing stopping our government printing their own money that hasn't got the private Bank of England name on it, and printing it based on the productivity, the minerals, and whatever that this country can provide. There is nothing stopping them doing that at all. So ask one question. Why? Why do they not print the money? If you suddenly had a magic printing machine that could print as much of this stuff out as you could, and you could spend it on what the hell you like, would the first thing that you would do is give it to somebody else, get them to print it, and then give it back to you, charging you interest on it? No, it wouldn't. That'd be insanity. So there's got to be a reason. And the reason is, this world is not broken. It's working exactly how it's supposed to. And it's not for my benefit, it's not for Jason's benefit, and it's not for anybody who's listening's benefit. It's for the benefit of the 13 families. That's why. And now, this is economically designed to fail. Absolutely designed to fail. Let's give you a good example. I call this the repossession roundabout. Let's talk about houses for a minute. 13 families own the banks and own everything else. So what basically happens is, let's say for a moment, me and...
what's that, Andy?
We've got some noises coming through.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, guys. I've sorted it.
We've got Andy Young, who's producing tonight's show, and he's sat there with his bobble hat on, and he's playing with things on his computer and making noise. Bless you, mate. I call this the repossession roundabout.
Okay.
Here's an elevator statement for you. How can a bank repossess something they never owned in the first place? Did the bank ever own the house? You didn't buy it off the bank. You bought it off the nice couple that stuck the sign in the front garden, or the builder who built it. That's who you bought it off. So how can they repossess something? So there's an elevator statement. Might just get somebody to stick their head down the rabbit hole. And here's how it works. Jason and I own me and you, we own a factory making guitars.
Okay.
And there's just me and you there beavering away, and we're making these beautiful guitars. And all of a sudden we start getting more orders than we can, than we can cope with. So we have to employ somebody. And this goes on for a couple of years. And before we know it, we've got a cash flow problem where we've got loads of orders and we've got loads of raw material, but we haven't got enough people, and the cash flow's slowing us down. We need to expand this business. So you and I toddle off to the bank and we say, look, this is our order book. This is what we've got in money, but, our wages and our fuel and blah, blah, blah. This is all I know. We need a loan. How much do you need, guys? Well, we need 50 grand. And they look at Andy Young's bank account and they go, Andy Young's got 5 grand in his bank account. So all we need to do is add a note, and then we can lend it to Jason and Ade's guitar company. And that's what they do. They create this money from nothing, but they lend it to me and Jason. So everything's going really well, and we're getting bigger, and everything's going really well, and we end up with 12 people working for us. And they've all been there a couple of years, and then they all toddle off to the bank and they all get a mortgage. And they all start paying the mortgage, and all the wives are happy with them, and they've started to have 2.4 kids, and, a car on the drive and fuck all in the fridge. And things are going really well. And then all of a sudden, the bank come to see Jason and Ade, and they say, listen, there's been a bit of a boom and bust thing going on. That thing that Gordon Brown said would never happen again. And I'm afraid, guys, we're going to have to call in this loan we've given you. We go, well, we need that for cash flow. We can't afford to pay for our raw materials. We need it for cash flow. Sorry, guys. Sorry, it's just how it is. So we have a meeting with the staff and we say, okay, who's up for voluntary redundancy? Well, these 12 guys have all got mortgages. So what then happens is we have to close the business.
Yep.
So then these 12 guys are then out of work. But because the bank haven't just been to our factory, they've been to lots of factories and said, come on guys, we need to call these loans back in. All of a sudden, these 12 guys who were employed, paying the mortgage, now can't pay their mortgage. So what happens? The bank repossessed something they never owned in the first place. And who owns the property after lending them nothing? The bank. And they now own a guitar company or a factory or a load of stock because they got the receivers in. And now the bank are asset rich. And the reason they have to do that, I don't watch the news anymore. I can't watch it without just sitting and swearing at it. But you'll often hear economists say things like, the banks are very asset poor at the moment. Well, yeah, because they've been fractional reserve lending. That's why they're very asset poor. And, the financial ombudsman will say to them, look, I'm sorry, but this bank, it's got to get more assets behind it. Yeah, and that's exactly how they do it. They create a situation where Jason and Ade's factory has got to make people redundant so they can't afford to pay the mortgage, so the bank can then come along and claim some assets they have absolutely no right to because they lent nothing.
Yeah. Absolutely, but the smart way to go about that, if you go about that analogy, the smart way would to be go that me and you are making guitars, and we've got so much demand we can't keep up with it. So instead of that, we just stay at the same level and just increase the price.
Yeah, exactly.
Smart way.
Yeah, exactly. But, the point is, if our government printed the money and it would then have a true value, but they don't. They don't print the money. It might have the Queen's head on it, but it means nothing. It's a worthless piece of paper and
so
only has value.
So has Prince Philip's cock.
Yeah.
Make it worth out, does it?
Not really, no. And just while we're on the banking thing, I mean, I'm going to come to the 13 families later, but here's one for you. Everybody's heard of this word insider trading. Jason, you know the Queen's real name.
Yeah.
Saxe-Coburg-Gotha. Let me tell you, Windsor is a lovely little place with a nice big house sat on top of an hill called a castle that somehow we got the bill for refurbishing, but anyway, even though we don't own it. And it's just across this little bridge from a lovely little town called Eton. That's Windsor. Windsor is not a surname. Saxe-Coburg-Gotha is the Queen's name. Has anybody heard of a bank called Goldman Sachs? Now, insider trading? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. Is that an elevator statement? Probably. If it makes somebody think, then that's what it's all about. So, when people say, here's a good one, you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, not even that statement's come out of their own brain. It's something they've seen on the TV or Jesse Ventura in his conspiracy theories program or whatever. Yeah, there is a conspiracy because all that means is two people talking about something and arranging something. And by the way, conspiracy to anything, any criminal act, is 25 years. Conspiracy to anything. So, we can get these bastards, but they're the ones conspiring to create boom and bust in a fiat currency, not for my benefit, not for your benefit, but for their benefit. So they can come along and sweep up everything that's there to be swept. Is it 5 people own most of the world? It's some ridiculous amount. Absolutely ridiculous. That's not by accident. That's not because they're clever. It's not because their name's, who's the guy off the Dragon's Den, the big tall guy. It's not because they're clever. Yeah, that's him. It's not because it's Mr. Moonpig, because they're really good entrepreneurs. It's because the whole system is set up for them and not for us. There will always be entrepreneurs, and good luck to them. And I mean that, really, good luck to them. But never, while I was in the financial industry, did anybody ever explain to me that money wasn't a positive, it was a negative. Money is created as debt. And that is a fact. So all these years that I was there selling mortgages, pensions, unit trusts, and all the rest of it was completely bullshit. I spent 20 years selling pensions, and guess how much money I put into a pension scheme every week now? Absolutely nothing. Now, if anybody does, that's fine. It's your choice. But I don't. So, we've done the repossession roundabout where they just create boom and bust and repossess everything. The other one I want to talk about, I love this one. I can't remember how this one came about. These credit agencies, you've seen them. I did see one advert with a dog, and he goes, "Where are you going?" He says, "Oh well, I'm going to go on such and such a website, and I'm going to get my credit history." Ooh. And he's talking to the boxer dog.
Yeah.
It's not Experian, but it's one of them. Here's what Experian do, folks, and all the other ones like them. You enter in all your details to find out what your credit score is. Now, most people who do that because they've got credit. I'm in a fortunate position at the moment. I don't have any debt. It's probably the first time in my life I've been in that position. But I don't. Okay. But all these people go into Experian and they put all their details in to find out what their credit score is and how much more debt they can get into to buy all the shit they really don't need. But if it was as simple as that, it'd be great. But what Experian and the other companies like that then do is contact the people that you owe money to, who you might be trying to hide from damn good reason, like somebody could be some dispute on an account, and they give your information to them. Now you're paying £15 a month for that privilege, for them to grass you up. Now, that might be an elevator statement, people. You know, this isn't about your credit history for your benefit. This is about your credit history being given to the people that you owe the money to, for their benefit, so that they can catch up with you. Wakey, wakey. It's the opposite. Opposites distract you. That's what they're there for.
Yep. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. Yep.
Now, I used to get close family, would say to me, well, yeah, but this tax that you pay, you know, everybody's got to pay the bit. Okay. Well, tell me what your tax money's used for. Every penny of tax in this country isn't used to pay for roads. It's not used to pay for infrastructure. It's not used for things like that. What it's used for is to pay the interest on the debt that our country owed to the banks for printing the money that we could have printed ourselves in the fucking first place.
Yep.
Now, other than there's some big conspiracy by 13 families, if somebody can come up with some logical explanation why, I'm willing to listen. Every day's a school day. But I can't think of one. Every penny that's paid in tax goes to pay for the debt, the interest on the debt. And when they talk about the deficit, that's not how much debt we're in. That's how much of the interest we can't pay of the debt that we're in. This debt that doesn't need to exist because our government could have printed the money themselves. But instead, they gave this magical printing press to a private company to print the money instead, and then allowed the private banks to create the rest of the money as debt. So, if somebody can come up with a reason why or how, then please tell me. Please tell me, because I cannot think of one. Right. Let's talk about, Jason, you're the one doing the interviewing.
Yeah, I'll just, you just seem to be sort of like like a crisp packet in the wind, and I just didn't want to, I'm trying to catch you at some point, but, it's a very good first show, I think, of Raconteurs 2.
Raconteurs 2, who came up with that?
Great opening show, and it's giving people an insight into what you're about and what sort of things that they can expect in future. So, what's your next subject you want to move on to? Have you written any ideas down? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of got all these scraps of paper that I tried to put in some order, but there isn't an order, so I'm just going to kind of go where my brain's going to take me, probably ignore the piece of paper. And that's politics. Oh, yeah. Now, we've already discussed the banks, that, you know, the banks don't have a choice in anything, because not the actual bank, because they're owned by the same 13 families. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, 13 families own everything. Now, we only see so far up the ladder. So, when we walk into the bank, we only see, well, it used to be a cashier, now it's a machine. So we don't even see a cashier anymore. Even if you go inside, you don't see one. When it's politics, the furthest up the ladder that we see is the Prime Minister, the leader. Leader. Now, that's an interesting word. I'm not really sure who's the Prime Minister now, what's her name?
Theresa May.
That's her, yeah. I'm not really sure where she's going. I certainly was never sure where David Cameron was going. I know where Tony Blair ought to go. But I certainly didn't want leading in the same fucking direction. You know, did they wake up one morning and ring me up and say, hey, this is where we're going, do you want to come? No, they just put out all this bullshit where they say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do the... Well, actually, they don't do that anymore. All they say is, the guy wearing the other tie, the other coloured tie, is bad because. That's what they say. They don't say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. They just say, the other guy's bad because. So it's all negative. There's never anything, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. There's never any of that. And ask yourself this. If the politicians were really the top rung of the ladder, is the best that America can do Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump? Is that fucking it? Now, last year... You what, sorry, Jason?
I just said it looks like it. It looks like that. It's the best because that it is the greatest democracy on earth.
Well, apparently, yeah. Yeah. Here's a good one for you, Jason. You'll like this one. Leader of the free world. Now, let's just think about those words for a minute. Leader. Where the fuck do you need a leader to take you? Are you not just going to wake up tomorrow morning and decide what you're going to do for yourself? You know, you're in charge, Charles. You don't need a leader. If you think you do, you're a muppet. Start taking responsibility for your own actions. You know, the answer does not lie in number 10. The answer does not lie in the White House. The answer lies between the ears of the billions of people that are on this fucking planet, and it's time to wake up, people. If you externalise your power, you externalise everything, because they will do with your power what they fucking like, because you gave it to them, and they are power hungry, and that is what they thrive on. So start taking it back and saying no.
Yeah, it does take some balls though to stand up and say no. I know that myself, having this house smashed into by coppers, but I still stood my ground and I said no, and I stood up to them. It don't matter whether they got in and did the thing. It was the act of standing up that was the important thing.
Exactly, and it's a case of, you know, if you took all of these people who are supposedly in charge, and let's just, if a government isn't afraid of its people, there's something wrong. Now, I'm telling you people, the government aren't afraid of you, but they should be. And the reason they're not is because you just roll over and let them do what they want. And I'll explain how you do that in a minute, but let's talk about the leader of the free world. Now, if you're being led, that's not free will. It's one or the other, people, and it's in the same sentence. Leader of the free world. Think about
it's an oxymoron.
Exactly, it's an oxymoron. You know, here's another one. Consent of the governed. Now, either I'm being governed or I'm consenting, one or the other. But it can't be both. It's another oxymoron. It's an opposite that's there to distract you. It's to make you think that you've got a choice. You don't. You don't have a choice. I travelled America last year on a motorbike right across America. And I met some of the most amazing people I will ever meet. 95% of them were completely Fox 5 and CNN indoctrinated. Most of them. But I'll tell you what, I spoke to a few people and they know exactly what's going on. And there's not, I would say percentage-wise, there's more people in this country, percentage-wise, per head of population, know what's going on more than in America. They're more pissed off about it than we are. They don't know what to do about it, and they don't understand why, but they are pissed off about it. But over here, we're not as pissed off, and that's what I don't get. How much more have we got to have done to us? You know, while you're on your hands and knees begging to a leader to take you somewhere, you're getting shafted up the arse.
Mm.
You know, let's just talk about democracy.
Before we talk about democracy, I just want to bring up a point that Mithrin made in the chat room earlier on. When I was talking earlier on about people who their eyes roll and they know what you're going to do and they know what you're going to say, and Mithrin put a comment in the chat room that along the lines of, even friends and family, loved ones, even friends and family don't listen, and it seems pointless. But I just want to make a little point that I've been chipping away at my dad for God knows how many years, but I don't see him very often. But when I do,
see in the Daily Mirror, you don't believe it.
No, actually, I've been chipping away at him, and he once said to me, he says, "I really like Royal Family, me," and I just went off one. I went off on one at him, and then and every time he's brought something up, and I've given him the opposite point of view, and he's like, "Oh no, I can't see it." But the other day, he tagged me in a video on Facebook about somebody who had Parkinson's disease, and they give him some cannabis oil, and his shaking stopped.
Yeah.
So for me, that's progress. I've made him think.
Yeah, absolutely. Mithrin, thanks for that, because that's why I'm sat in this room tonight on my own. That me having my brain thinking like this is why I'm on my own, because my ex-partner, and I dearly love her to bits. It wasn't my choice for us to split up, but her answer was she couldn't live with a nutter. So yeah, it does cost you your friends. It does cost you your family. It absolutely does. This is why I want to try and come up with these elevator statements and just pointing out the obvious, like consent of the governed and leader of the free world. Just think about those words. And if we can just say that one little sentence that drops into somebody's brain who's listening tonight, who just happens to say that to their dad, like Jason's just been speaking about, then, we've done our job over this hour and the next one. That's what we want to do. Well, let's just talk about the Queen for a minute. Let's just imagine for 1 second that money is real, money isn't debt, and everything I've said so far is bullshit. With the stroke of a pen on a cheque, the Queen and the Vatican could get rid of world debt in the stroke of that pen. All the children would be fed, all the houses would be built, and everybody who hasn't got anything to eat, anywhere to live, and is being destroyed by these 13 families would be just fine, thank you very much.
Absolutely. I mean, people do say, like in this country, they say we're overpopulated, but there's vast areas of uninhabited land.
Overpopulated by ours. Yeah. Have you seen how big Australia is?
Yeah.
Nobody lives further away from the coast than 20 miles. What about all the big bit in the middle? Yeah, that's just one continent, for God's sake. Anyway, let's stop calling them countries. They're not countries. They're farmyards.
Yeah.
These 13 families who control the government is just there to make you think you have a choice. You don't. There is no choice. They are going to do what they're going to do. Let me give you one example. Let's say that Yorkshire word, Brexit. Yeah, that word came from a fat bloke who sat on a chair and he Brexit.
Yeah, only in Yorkshire.
Only in Yorkshire. Now, Brexit. Let's imagine we believe all this bullshit like you've really got a choice, because you haven't, because the 13 families who you don't see control the puppets, the MPs. Now, I've been on holiday with MPs. I have worked in the House of Commons. I don't think I know everything, by any stretch, but I've seen this firsthand. These are the puppets, and I'll give you an example. Brexit. If we stay in Europe, we are one step closer to world government, because that's where this is going. If we all vote to come out of Europe, and our country then goes and gets all these independent trade deals with all these places all around the world, we are one step closer to world government. So it matters not what the fuck you put on that piece of paper. Does it matter whether we come out of Europe? No, because the road is the same. The end game is the same. The destination is the same. Because the 13 families got the little puppets who are told what to do, and that's how it works.
Where do you think the destination is?
One world government. And if anybody's not scared by that, and then we have a one world army. Now let's imagine there's a one world army.
We're fighting against.
Exactly. That one world army is there to keep me and you in our place, otherwise we get a big size 12 across our throat with a gun in our face. That's what it is. If you think fascist Germany was bad, and you do nothing, because the answer lies between the ears of billions of people, you know, in the words of David Icke, how can 13 families rule the world? It's a piece of cake. It's a piece of cake. Because all they've got to do is make us believe we've got a choice. You don't. You do not have a choice.
Yeah, I thought you were getting a bit Ickish then.
Yeah, you know. Do you know, David Icke, didn't want to talk about David Icke, but here we go. 90% of what David Icke says, I can kind of listen to and think, yeah, it's good. But when he starts to talk about Moon being the repeater station for the broadcast that's coming from Saturn and lizards, hey, he might well be right, because he's right about a lot of stuff. But the only issue that I've got with it is, for somebody who's not yet aware or awake or whatever you want to, that is so far away from reality in their eyes, that's not going to do anything to wake them up. At all.
No.
So, listen, I've got a massive amount of respect for David Icke. And, you know, when I was sat in that nightclub with my earphones on and, you know, a lot of the stuff I listened to was David Icke.
It's a progression though, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Everybody goes through it. You start off with Alex Jones, you may do. You know, then it's David Icke, and but you progress and you progress and you progress. And it's only when you come to the realization that actually it's you that needs to change.
Yeah.
And then if anybody else follows that example, then, you know, we're done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you've got, I don't know how many billion people it is in the world, there's all sorts of numbers floating around. But there's a tiny amount of them. And all of these people. That's why I can't get my head around. People, the answer is between your ears. And the answer is between the ears of all of the people that you know. So let's start dropping these elevator statements and these opposites distract things into our friends. Just one-liners. Let's not bore the arse off them for 2 hours and let their eyes roll back. Let's just drop these seeds in. That's what we need to do. We need a bigger audience. We need a bigger congregation, and we need a bigger choir.
Absolutely, Ade. Well, it's the first hour's absolutely flown by.
We're not allowed to say that. Hey, hang on a minute. I'm the host, and you're the guest who's interviewing me tonight. So yeah. You're right. The first hour has absolutely flown by. So I think what we'll do is we're going to take a short break. Please come back to Raconteurs Too, because we've got loads and loads of stuff I want to go through. And just so that I don't forget, Jason, when we come back, I want you to ask me about voting.
Okay.
That's what I want you to ask me to do. So we'll take a short break for the music. And what can I say, but it's Metallica, Don't Tread on Me.
Interviewing the host. You know when you tell me what to ask in the next hour at the end of the previous hour, it seems like it's set up.
I know. Anybody?
And do you know what? I've forgotten what it was anyway.
It's a good job I remembered. Now, the whole point of tonight, hopefully you might learn something that you didn't know, but the biggest thing that I want to try and get over is put it over in a simple and quick way to your friends that at the moment are asleep, who aren't aware, so that we don't bore the arse off them and their eyes roll back. It's so that we give them what I call an elevator statement, something you could say before a lift got up 10 floors with somebody you'd never met before who would know where you were coming from. And the example that I gave at the top of the show was the Ministry of Defence. No, it's the Ministry of War, because that's what they do. It's an opposite that's there to distract you. And that's what we're trying to do tonight. We're trying to come up with elevator statements. And I don't know if there's been any in the chat room. I don't know if you've been keeping your eye on the chat room, have you, Jason?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it now.
Yeah, okay then, so I'll take that as a no. Right, let's move on.
Oh, sorry, what were you saying? I was reading intently the chat room, and then you said the chat room, and it caught me ear, and then I was listening. Sorry, say it again.
I just wondered if anybody put anything in the chat room that we needed to cover before we moved on, that was all.
I don't think so. I don't think anybody's put anything in there, but it's moving that fast. It's like scrolling that quick. So I'm not a very good reader.
Yeah, we know that. Should we talk about voting? Let's talk about voting.
Voting. Ade, I'd love to know your opinions on voting, please.
Okay, that's good. Not that this was scripted at all. At all. Right, okay. Let's just take a bit of a back step. Voting. When we register to vote. Now, I'm not on the electoral register, and I'll tell you why. When you register anything, you give up legal title to it. Now, we know this is true because if Jason doesn't pay his car road tax, they'll put a clamp on his car, and then if he still doesn't pay it, they'll tow his car away and turn it into bean tins. Now, if it was really his car, they couldn't do that because that would be theft. So, we know that once you've registered your vehicle with the DVLA, the Driver and Vehicle Licensing Agency, private company. Are they yet a private company? I don't know, are they? Anyway.
I think you find they are, yeah.
You give up legal title to it. Now, when I was first becoming aware, I watched all the usual stuff. John Harris, It's an Illusion. And this one came from him, which was, you register something, you give up legal title to it. Here's another example. One of my customers opened the door to me one day and she said, she was crying her eyes out. She's about 25 years old, got 3 kids. Single mum, crying her eyes out. And I said, what on earth is the matter? Are you okay? He's coming to get me. And I've told the police and they can't do anything. I went, whoa, slow down, what do you mean? And apparently the reason why she was a single mum was her ex-partner had done a nice job of beating her up a lot and got 5 years. And after only 2.5 years, he was, of course, getting out of prison. So the police had been to see her and said, look, he's getting out tomorrow. We think you should know. So she'd said to the police, look, well, please take my kids. I know he's going to come and beat me up. You've said you can't do anything until he does. I know he's going to do. Please take my kids so that, they don't at least see it. So the police contact social services, and social services come along and take the 3 kids away. And an hour later, they brought the middle one back. And she said, what are you doing here? He's coming out tomorrow. He's going to come and get me. And they said, we can't take this one. You never registered her. Now, that means that, you can register your car and you don't own it anymore. You can register your kids and you don't own it anymore. I wonder how many homeowners are listening who have registered their house that they're paying their mortgage on with the money that was never ever lent to them in the first place with the land registry. How many people are listening now and thinking, shit, I'm paying for something that I'm never even going to own? Because you're not. Because you registered it. And when you register anything, you give up legal title to it. So the only way to do that with your property, people, is to turn it into, what do all the rich people do? They turn it into an estate. Now, an estate doesn't mean, thousands of acres with deer on it and a big stately home at the top with a fountain coming out the gardens. It doesn't mean all that. An estate, it's a trust. So you can turn your house where you, your wife, and your children are equal partners in this trust. And when one dies, you add another trustee. And when that one dies, you add another trustee. That's the only way you've got of actually hanging on to what you've actually paid for. The fact that you paid for it 3 or 4 times over, if you manage to not have it repossessed, if you ever actually got to the end of it, and then if you did get to the end of it, you could end up like the poor people like Tom Crawford and the family that you had on the other week, Jason. This is not all set against us for no reason. It's there for a reason. And we're all tricked into it. When you register anything, you give up legal title to it. And there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of examples.
And yet it's like the title of the show is Opposites Distract. It's dressed up as to protect it.
Well, it's dressed up as a loan, and it's not. the mortgage in the first place. It's dressed up so that you own it, and you don't, because you registered it, because they told you to, and you went along with it.
Yeah. But I think what I was trying to make was the general point that registering things, when you register things, it's always dressed up as if you register it, it's for the protection, for your protection. Yeah. And that, you know, in keeping with opposites to strike, they use, it started to speak in 1984.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, here's where it fits in with voting. If you register to vote, what you're actually saying is, I'm willing to go along with what the majority say. Now, if I put my cross in the yes box and, you know, at least 51% of the people say the opposite, then I'm happy to go along with the opposite. That's what you are doing when you register your vote, because you are giving up your right to be able to go along at any point and say, listen, I'm not on your register, you vote. I'm telling you now, I'm rejecting what you're suggesting you're going to do. Whether it's fracking, building a road through Jason's house, and they want to knock it down, whether it's a HS2 thing they want to put at the bottom of your garden. If you register to vote, you are giving up your voice. So you register, you give it up, and vote is voice. You are giving up your own individual voice, and you are chucking yours into the pot with everybody else's. There's two problems with that. Democracy. Democracy is not consensus. Consensus is 6 guys sat round having a beer one night watching the football, and one says, does anybody fancy some food? And 4 say, yeah, let's ring out and get pizza in. And the other 2 say, I'd rather have Chinese. So the other 4 say, well, just to make it easy, should we have pizza tonight? But next Saturday we can all have Chinese. And the other 2 say, yeah, we'll forego our Chinese and we'll all have pizza tonight. All right, that's fine. That's consensus.
I thought you were going to say that they ordered Greek and it was decided by consensus.
No, hey, democracy is everybody votes, and provided it's not been corrupted, the majority win. Now the problem with that is, at some point, you are going to be in the minority, because there are 1,001 ways to chop up the population. Whether it be male, female, old, young, born in this country, not born in this country, Muslim, Christian, doesn't matter what it is, lesbian, gay, whatever. There are 1,001 ways to chop up the population, so at some point you are going to be in the minority and you are not going to have a voice about it. So when you register your vote, you give up your voice. I've still got mine. And there's going to be a load of fracking going on, or they're going to try and do a load of fracking around here. So all these fracking companies are going to take the little groups that are going to set up, and they're going to take them through a process where they have to go to the council, and they're going to have to ask permission for this, and ask permission for that, and go through this. Let's stop fucking asking them and telling them. Stop registering to vote, take back your own power, and fucking tell them you reject it. Take back your voice. The truth is the truth. You know, when you see, they have a debate on the BBC or whatever, we've got to show both sides of the argument. It's either black or it's fucking white. How can you have 2 sides of the truth? There is only one truth.
Yeah, well, that's the BBC, see? They don't deal in truth.
No, of course they don't. I mean, if you did a one program, and they are programs, people, it's not called a program by accident. It's there to program your brain. Program. Jeremy Vine on BBC Radio 2. I'm old. I listen to Radio 2 because they play my kind of music. For no other reason. Well, the other reason is they don't play adverts. Now, here's another word for you. Consumer. Is that what I am? I'm just here to consume shit. Really? Is that what I'm for? I'm a consumer, am I? Virtually every debate they have, in fact, every debate they have on this Jeremy Vine show, if you bear in mind what we've already said about money, and we've already said about who really controls the world, is completely fucking irrelevant. Because they'll have chats about, there's this going on with the economy, and there's this going on with this hospital and what a load of bullshit. It's all there to distract you.
Yeah, I remember when you first became aware, and you were still quite naive, and you'd still listen to Jeremy Vine, and you'd ring me up dead excited saying, I've sent him a text, I'll read it to you, and all this sort of thing.
Hundreds of times. Now, these TV and radio presenters, and by the way, that is one job that I've done before, radio presenting and voiceovers and whatever.
You're not going to claim you're from mainstream, are you? You came
No, not at all. Well, a long time ago I did, but it is a long time ago. But I can remember going into a meeting, and this is serious. We went into a meeting for 4 hours, and in 4 hours, not one of the board of directors mentioned the word listener. They were only bothered about figures. Because listeners, you don't fucking matter to them. You're just a consumer that's there to consume all the shit that they advertise that you don't fucking need. That's what you are. And if you're employed by a company that's got a HR department, you are a human resource. You're a fucking battery. That's what you are. So wake up. These are the elevator statements that we need to say to people. You're a battery. You're a HR, human resource. That's what you are. They sell this advertising shit and all of this bollocks that you see on the fucking BBC where they have a debate. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because they're forgetting one thing. Money is debt. Money is never a positive. It is only ever a negative, and it is only supplied like it is so that you are a slave. Period.
What do you make of the recent trend, shall we call it, of fake news?
Oh, I had this. Yeah, I tell you what this is. This is another postcode lottery. Now, what I mean by that is 3 years ago, postcode lottery meant I've got a certain disease that only a certain hospital in the country can deal with, and it's a lottery that I've got the right postcode so that I can get dealt with or not, because my local health service might or might not do it. All of a sudden, it's something you can fucking win that's advertised. That's what it is. And that's what fake news is. This it's fake news. The biggest fucking fake news is CNN, Fox 5, and the fucking British bullshit company, the BBC. They talk shit, people. They fill you full of it. That's the fake news. The actual words, fake news, are there to distract you so that it means the opposite of what you know it means. But
it's like the term conspiracy theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it's been used as.
Exactly. So fake. I mean, there is some fake news out there. It's all over the fucking BBC every day. You can listen into it. When I worked for independent local radio, I was there. I had a very, very minor job. I was working in finance, and I used to get a phone call. Ade, we need some voiceovers today. Can you come and voice some adverts for us? Oh, yeah, I can do that. So I used to toddle off over the bridge to Hull to Viking FM, and I used to sit in a little booth, and there'd be a guy there with a script, and I'd read it out and do the voiceover and all the rest of it. And it was very minor. But I used to watch where the news came from. And the news then came off it was a fax machine. We didn't have a teleprinter. We'd got this new thing called a fax machine. And these faxes used to go to 28 different independent local radio stations who all had a different voice reading the same shit. Now, they've supposedly all got local journalists who can go out and find news. No, they fucking haven't. They've got somebody sat in front of a fax machine waiting for some twat down in London to decide what we're allowed to tell you. That's what they've got. And I always used to think of it. When I used to see it, I used to think, this is Good Morning Vietnam, this. If anybody's seen that film, Good Morning Vietnam, where there's a guy there, he's just got a big black pen, putting a line through everything. And then Robin Williams reads it out and he says, there wasn't really a bomb that went off in this pub today, and there wasn't really... And that's what it is. We've all seen the videos where we've got all the people in America, all the different news anchors all reading the same line. And I've actually seen this for myself while I was over in the States. But it's not just there, it's here. That's what the real fake news is. But now, because somebody's come out and said, oh, it's fake news, all this, they've now taken that phrase and they'll turn it round, just like they did the postcode lottery. They'll turn it into something that, oh dear. And that's what they do. They just take all this stuff and it's all there to distract you, because opposites distract. That's what they are there for.
Well, Ade, we've got a question from Mithrin in the chat room.
Yeah.
And he asks, hello Mithrin, I hope you're okay. He asks, does Ade have an equity card?
No.
No, okay.
I have always managed to bullshit my way through over the years. I've sung in bands, I've DJ'd, I've worked at local radio. I've worked everywhere from the House of Commons, the Royal Albert Hall, in various different guises. I was UK sales manager for a loudspeaker company and was backstage with God knows how many million of, famous people or whatever. But I've got something to tell you about famous people. They all go for a shit, just like me and you.
We've got a comment as well. Tony's commented. Tony, who does a lot of work on the background. Thanks for that, Tony. He's commented, Ade might be good at this when he gets over his shyness.
Yeah, bless you, mate. Well, I've had a microphone in my hand now for something like 37 years. So, all I can do is bring my passion to hopefully give somebody one thing that helps to wake one person up or to stop them pressing that snooze button. That's the only thing I want to achieve. That's it. Job done. And if anybody ever wants you to pay for it, tell them to fuck off. There's loads of free stuff out there. But beware. There are gatekeepers. Let's just talk about I'm not going to bring this up yet, but gatekeepers. Let's just talk about the gatekeepers.
Go on then.
There is a load of stuff out there that's old, but it's still good. I mean, things have come a long way since John Harris and his It's an Illusion. That was one of the first things that I watched. And some of the stuff in there at that time was really groundbreaking and completely the opposite to what a normal train of thought was. And then, since then, there's been, there was all the free man on the land stuff and yada yada, and it's all evolved, and there's now people out there who are brave enough to not pay the council tax and stuff like that. And what I would say is, whatever you're reading, whatever you're watching, the first thing you should do is question it. And think for yourself. It's your life, it's your brain, and the answer is between your ears. Now, one of the gatekeepers is Alex Jones and his Planet Will Bollocks, the shit, whatever he called it. What's he called it, Jason? Prison Planet.
Infowars.
Yeah, that's it. And I used to watch it, listen to it, and I used to think, it's a bit like me, loudmouth wanker. And then I saw him on a video where he was at some kind of protest. And there was all these people there protesting. Listen, you don't need to protest. Just write them a letter of rejection. Fucking stop at home. Don't get on a train. Write to the government, write to number 10, everybody, and tell them you reject it. I reject. Period. If you stand outside number 10 or Westminster or on Capitol Hill in America or wherever, do you think they care? All they care about is that you're asking permission for something. They look out the window and they think, they're asking us again. We don't give a fuck what they're asking us about, but they're still asking us. They're not in charge yet. We are. That's all they see. And it's people like Alex Jones who will only tell you what everybody can actually find out anyway. They won't tell you anything new. And all they're trying to do, they're trying to gatekeep and keep you away from the big stuff, the important stuff. That's what they're trying to do. And this is we just need to keep this basic. Start saying no. Don't get complicated with it. Money isn't, and there are 13 families that run it all. And if that's the only thing you understand, everything else will fall into place. You don't need the gatekeepers, the Alex Jones. Look at the good people who put their stuff out there for nothing. Most of the people who are on Raconteurs News spread their words for free.
And autonomous media.
Yeah, and everybody on autonomous media. Everybody. It's all there for free. And if there's a donate button, you want to chuck a few quid in the pot so they can keep doing it, great. But when you go to a website like Prison Planet and they want to sell you a water filter, Although I don't condone that, because I've got a Berkey water filter. You know? well, I don't know. Maybe I believe the hype. I don't know. I try to get rid of the fluoride that might or might not be in my water. I don't know if it works. Maybe I believe that. I don't know. But if you go to a website and the first thing they want you to do is buy something, it's probably bollocks. There's other places you can go and get it for free, trust me. You know, I'm not doing this because I want to get paid for it, and I'm not doing this because I want somebody to wear a t-shirt with my name on it. I don't give a shit about that. If I can help one person to wake up and not get trodden on, then that's all I want to do. That's it. That's the idea. Let's give things away, people. Let's do things because we can, not because we can make money out of it. The greatest gift anybody ever gave to me was by you, Jason, and that was by giving me the kick up the arse I needed to stick my head down the rabbit hole to look at the things that I, an intelligent guy, should have fucking known, and I didn't.
Yep. Well, you know what now? Listen, mate, honestly, it's to hear you talking like this on here from you know, and knowing that it were me that put that spark up your arse, then that really does make me feel proud, honestly. But it's all you, mate. It's all you. All I did was open the doors for you, and you went through them.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Right, let's. Where do I want to go next? I don't know. You got anything you want to ask me, Jason, or shall I just plough through? Or?
Yeah, just plough through, mate. I think we've had some comments in the chat room, but like I say, I keep scrolling through. I think Andy's putting some into our Skype chat, so if you can see any in there.
Oh, okay. Chat, I'm not that good on chatty things. Hang on.
Oh, yeah, you're a bit old, aren't you, for this newfangled tech stuff? Yeah. But I'll have a look through them anyway. But if we move on to whatever you want to do next, obviously, it's your show.
I've just got a message here. Tony, we all work for free except Jason. He's on $1,000 a week.
I can assure you that I'm not that cheap.
No, you're not. That's true. Right, let's talk about rights. Rights.
Okay.
Do you know, this one winds me up like fucking never. Now, there's things out there like the Human Rights Act and yada yada and the European bollocks this and, you know, let's just remember one thing. Your rights are not a blank piece of paper till somebody gives them to you. You have got the right to walk down the street backwards with your finger down your underpants and your thumb up your arse. You've got the right to wear double denim, a denim jacket and a denim jeans. You've got the right to wear red trousers and a pink moustache. Nobody gave you those rights. They are yours. They are your rights. So, let's not just assume that you don't have any people. You've got more rights than you could ever imagine. Things that you've not even thought of yet. You know, human rights. It's not a gift. It's yours anyway. It's yours anyway. Your rights are not a blank piece of paper. And it's up to you to take back those rights. Oh dear. Right. Jason.
Yes.
I just want to talk about the law.
The law?
Yeah, dead complicated.
Dead complicated.
My stepdaughter. Absolutely love her to bits. She's the most creative young lady and beautiful that you could ever meet. And sadly, she went to university to study law. And the reason I say sadly is because she's very, very creative. She can paint, she can draw, incredible photographer, and the written word, so emotional in 4 lines, in poetry, stories, things to write on gravestones that she's even done for people. She's just amazing. So for somebody who's naturally like that to then go to university to study law, I kind of went, okay, I can't really see where this is going. Well, I can. And at the beginning of the second year, gladly, I'm very, very pleased to say she dropped out and became a professional photographer. But that left her with loads and loads of law books. And they're actually all in the boot of my car at the moment because I asked to borrow them. And there's things on tort law and liens and all the second year law stuff. Mm-hmm. And I can remember looking at these books when she first came on with them because at the time I was living with her mum. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the law's dead simple. Do no harm. What the fuck are all these books for? Why do you spend 5 years or whatever it is at college to learn all that shit? And the only reason is money. It's as simple as that. Monetize the world. Do no harm. Death, harm, loss, breach of the peace. That's it. You don't kill anybody, you don't harm anybody, you don't steal or take from anybody or cause somebody a loss. And you shut the fuck up at night so that your neighbours can sleep. That's the law. You can teach you you don't have to teach a 2-year-old. They know it.
Yeah.
That's the law. So what the fuck are all these books? These books are there for contracts. And if anybody doesn't know, a police constable is your best friend. If you get a phone call saying somebody's in your house attacking your wife, but the police are going to get there 10 minutes before you do because they're nearer, that police constable is your best friend. If somebody's kicking the shit out of you on the street and a police constable drags him off, that police constable is your best friend. But the minute he asks for your name, he's not. The minute he asks for your name, he wants a contract. And what the contracts always do, they always relieve you of your hard-earned money. So please always remember, a police constable doesn't need your name, because if you've caused death, harm or loss or breach of the peace, they will throw you in a van and talk to you later.
That's right. Common law.
A common law, common sense. Do no harm. That's it. Everything else is a contract. What do you need on a contract? They want a name. Excuse me, sir, can I have your name, please? Am I obliged to have one? Or, I don't need a name today. I won't be entering into any contracts, officer, because it's from an office. And what do offices need? Money.
Absolutely.
And, when these guys came through your letterbox, that'd have been good, through your front door, knocked your door in to put your prepayment meters in, Jason.
Yep.
Let's just look at any other situation. If anybody else had done that,
yeah,
what would they have done? But because this guy's in fancy dress with somebody from the court who's got the wrong piece of documentation to get into your house, all of a sudden he thinks he's got exemption from morality. Well, if there are any good police officers listening tonight, good police constables listening, thank you. Because I want you to be the one who saves my family or who does the good stuff. But if there's any police officers listening, fuck off, because I'm not contracting with you. Because I don't need to.
Yeah, and you know more than most people about that, and I know that your brother, wasn't he a police officer?
Yeah, my brother was a police officer for 30-something years. And
yep.
He's the one I would love to wake up. And by the way, his wife as well. He's the one I would love to wake up. And there's a few times I've dropped elevator statements at him and I've, gone to law stuff. And he says, "Oh, where do you get this shit from?" I went, "The same place that you get all the shit from that tells me that you spent 32 fucking years of your life enforcing laws that you didn't understand." And that's not his fault. It's because my brother counted for 12 years the amount of shifts he would have to do till he could retire. And that's because when he joined the police, he genuinely wanted to help people. He wanted to be the guy who didn't need your name.
Yep.
And so did his wife. They wanted to be the one who helped the guy who was getting beat up. They wanted to be the one who went round to see the lady and say, "I'm really sorry, we've got some bad news. We'd rather you heard it from us, but your husband was killed in a car accident today." They wanted to be the person who took that brunt to do that for the good of everybody. And I genuinely believe that those and all the people of their police generation generation wanted that. You know, but when I was at school, there was one, well, there were two or three, but there was one guy in particular you knew within 6 months of leaving school he was going to end up in prison. Nowadays, the same guy would end up being a police officer. Because that's what they want to recruit. And it's sad. Because, you know, PC Pomeroy, who used to wander around Ashby when I was a kid living in Scunthorpe, he was just like the guy at the Tufty Club. He was a lovely, lovely man. Police constable there to... Yeah, he was brilliant. I can remember going home to my dad and saying, Dad, PC McLeish has just given me a clip round the ear. And my dad gave me another one. Well, what was that for? He says, well, if McLeish thought you needed one, I thought you'd have another. Because that's what coppers were like.
Yeah.
It wasn't about contracts. It wasn't about filling paperwork in. It was about doing good for the community and protecting the people from the bad people.
Law and order. Actual law and order rather
that's
than...
That's exactly what it was about. But it's not anymore. Yeah. Now, this kind of brings me back onto government. If the government is there to protect you from the bad people, and we have to pay for that privilege, now, somebody might do something bad to me. But there's one thing for sure, the fucking government are doing bad things to me. They're taxing me for things I don't want to pay for, like the interest on their debt that they don't need to be there in the first place, for a start. They're chucking chemtrails at me and bullshitting everybody about why they're there. The people who own these 13 families, who own all the food companies, the pharmaceutical companies, are busy poisoning me and giving me diseases so that they can then sell me drugs to put things right that they put wrong in the first place. Bearing in mind, you know, to cure somebody don't make you any money, and to kill somebody don't make you any money, but actually to keep somebody sick makes them loads of money. That's what the government are doing to me. They're not protecting me from anything. But if you say to most people, do you want to be free? Well, yeah, I want to be free. No, they don't. They want to be safe. Or they want to feel safe. Now, if you want to feel safe, then go back to sleep. And, you know, let the government or the BBC, which is just basically it's the government's mouthpiece, and let them convince you that there's a terrorist around every corner. And that, you know, I mean, I'm still waiting to get bird flu, swine flu, and all the rest of the shit they've been on about for fucking years. But, you know, let's all be afraid. Let's be very afraid, because then we need more cameras and we need more this. My God. It's bullshit, people. If you want to be free, take responsibility for yourself and be nice to each other. You know, there's a good reason they killed John Lennon. A fucking good reason. And there's a good reason they killed JFK. Because all he said was, let's just forget all this shit. The answer's between your ears. It's not with somebody else, a politician or somebody wearing a fucking rosette or a different coloured tie or a queen or a, you know. Why don't we stop believing in the why do we argue about who wants to be on the throne? Let's just not have a fucking throne. Why do you need a leader? Where are you going?
Sometimes I need one right early in the morning, especially after I've had a fag.
You know, where are you going, folks? Let's just, you know, forget who's going to sit on this fucking number 10 throne or Queenie's throne or whatever. Why do we need a fucking throne in the first place? Where are you going? Why do you need a leader? Let's just get back onto the Queen again. The Queen. I call her Beryl. In 1970, whatever it was, Ted Heath went over to wherever in Europe and signed the Treaty of Rome. 1973. Went over and signed the Treaty of Rome. And Queenie kind of gave him a royal assent or whatever fucking shit she does. Whatever fictitious piece of paper she writes a contract on. And off he went and he signed the Treaty of Rome. And that was our first step into Europe. Now, there were people who tell you that the Queen isn't really the Queen because she sat on the wrong stone and she said the wrong thing. Oh, let's just imagine she did sit on the right stone and she was supposed to be sat there as the Queen and she had the right to be there. Let's just assume that for 1 minute. Part of her oath said, and I'm paraphrasing, I will not give up power to anybody save for losing a war. Now, we didn't lose a fucking war. Well, apparently not. The fact that it was all bullshit and it was all put up anyway, but we didn't lose a war. She just sent Ted Heath over on a boat or a plane to sign a piece of paper, and she gave away all of our country's power. Now, that to me smells like abdication, because she broke her oath of office.
Okay.
Period. She fucking abdicated. So she might as well be called Beryl, yet they still have all this trooping of the colour shit, and the Queen being able to sign off on new laws, and all this fucking crap that goes on.
Hey, AJ, you know, if you've got an argument as such as this on the BBC, just say, for example, somebody did, what they'd do is they'd say the monarch actually has no power. It's just ceremonial. What do you think to that?
Well, well, they're right. She ain't got any. But she keeps it because, you know, she's all the time signing off on what... And it's just a pantomime. They're called acts because it is a fucking act. That's why it's called an act. It's an act. It's just there so that we believe that she's the Queen and she's in charge. Right. Jason, I've not got £10. Can I give you £10?
Absolutely not. I don't think so, because you can't afford it.
Right, me and all my 20 neighbours haven't got £10 each. Can we give you £10?
No.
Right, so the Queen says she's sovereign. Well, the only place she gets that from is us. So we must be sovereign too. Period. We are sovereign. You are sovereign. Take back your sovereignty and start telling them fucking no.
But that's what you. That's like what you said earlier on. The answer to everything is in between in between your own ears. Yeah. That's where the answer lies. But how do we combat the seemingly? We're in an age where any information is at your fingertips. You can find just about anything out straight away at your fingertips. Yet we're in an age where ignorance is at an epidemic level.
Absolutely, because there's so much out there and so much of it is shit. But, you know, people turn off your TV for fuck's sake. You know, you can watch any program. They're called programs. And I don't just mean the news or Don't Pay Will Take It Away or to make you scared of bailiffs when they're not really bailiffs anyway. I don't just mean all that. I mean, even the storylines in soap operas. People are more fucking interested in what Kim Kardashian, whoever she is doing, or what's happening on Dead Enders or Coronation shit or whatever, than they are about the fact that just down the road from me, they're going to start poisoning our water by fracking for shale gas.
Yep. It's nuts,
what the fuck is going on with people? Wake up!
But don't you understand? I mean, these people who are running this system also run the education system so that they know exactly how they seem to have got a plan so that they can get exactly as many people into certain positions to do certain things. But although they're revered as being intellectuals, they're actually as brain dead as just somebody who's watches Jeremy Kyle, which is like me.
Do you know, I can remember when I was at school, I can now look back, and there was the odd teacher who used to say the odd line that somehow stuck in my brain. And they were talking about when they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima, and, you know, I can remember one teacher saying, no, because, they had a practice. And just little things like that. And now I wish I could go back and say to that teacher, what did you mean? You know, what was it? And I just wish I could do that to find out what they really meant, because I know that now that if I went back and asked them, they would probably tell me all this shit that I'm now coming out with. That's what they would say to me. And the education system isn't. It's another opposite to distract you. Do you know, when I think back, what did I learn at school? Well, I learned to read. I learned to write. But it wasn't the English that my mum taught me. You know, as Max Steely would call it, mother tongue. They didn't teach me that. They taught me enough so that all this legal shit, I would think meant one thing when it meant another. Like, everybody knows, understand, stand under. You know, do you understand? No. Why not? Because I fucking know what it means. But you didn't teach me that at school. You know, let me tell you what school is. School is to teach children, to indoctrinate children into a society. And I'll give you an example. Let's look at a map of the world. Is it by chance that all the people in this bit, the majority of them are Muslims, and the majority of the people in this other bit are all Christians, and the majority of the people in this bit are all Jews? Is that by chance? No. They were all taught.
Yep.
They were all taught, and we all believe what we are taught. And when you go to school, you are taught, shut the fuck up, sit down and listen. Now, a classic education is, here's the problem, let's 30 of us sit round and have a debate and come up with the probable answer. Now, you will always remember what that answer is because you debated it, you threw out all the stuff that was definitely wrong, you talked about all the stuff that might be right, and between you all came up with hopefully the right answer.
Yep.
That's a classic education. A comprehensive education is sit down, shut the fuck up, here's the book, here's all the questions, here's all the answers, and in 3 months' time we're going to give you an exam on it, and if you don't get at least 75 out of 100, we're going to call you a thick bastard for not fucking remembering it. But while all that's going on, we are going to teach you that you need to get a job and be a taxpayer. And we are going to indoctrinate you into thinking that you're better than the next guy because he's a different colour to you, and you're better than the next guy to him because he happens to come from Poland. And we're going to indoctrinate you into a system where you'll do as you're fucking told, and you will think that the government are in charge and they're always right. And the answer isn't between your ears, it's on the fucking BBC. That's what the education system is. It's indoctrination, period.
And yet we get from, so that indoctrination is fueled by the media because we get all these gadgets and things flashed up on screen. It's particularly at that age when we're susceptible to it. We get all these gadgets thrown up on screen, and also we sort of get this society that is so self-centered that anybody that's deemed to not have as much as somebody else, particularly at school age, is deemed a lesser citizen.
If they're not going to school with the latest gadget, I mean, when I was at school, you weren't allowed to wear trainers, because if you got a pair of Nike trainers and, you know, the guy sat next to his mum and dad couldn't afford a pair of Nike trainers because all the steel workers were on strike, that couldn't happen. Well, that's, you know, now they all go to school with the latest gadget and the latest and the latest. You know, come on, let's start teaching our kids some real values. And the real values are, they're in charge.
Yeah, you see,
they're in charge of their own brain.
Most kids these days go to school with something that costs 3, 4, 5, even 600 quid in the pocket. Can you imagine if I'd have gone with 600 quid at school in Dinnington in 1981? I'd have been completely, dustbin men would have had me. Teachers would have had me rather than the pupils.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. Just crazy. I mean, you talk about kids, and I sort of look, and thankfully both of my kids, who are now 30 and 26 or 27, I tell them both, you know, the most important thing is a smile on your face. That's it. The most important thing is a smile on your face. And if you can do that in the world that we, at the moment, are having to live in, then that's great. But thankfully, both my kids are awake. But I always remember what...
Yeah, they're awake. They keep costing me time.
Yeah, and me.
Fair on them.
I always remember what Rob Halford said on Raconteurs News a few weeks ago, and that was simply this. I'm paraphrasing again. The human race won't move out their comfort zone until they're kicked.
Yeah, I think Tony made that point in the chat room earlier on. He did say that it takes people to be affected by it before they'll actually act. Yeah,
and you know, when people do need shoving, but what I hope that we've tried to start to do tonight is to point out that opposites distract, and that everybody who's listening, 90% of them, you know, it's not the first rodeo. They've listened to shit like this before. I'm just somebody else spouting the same shit. But all I'm trying to do is put a slightly different angle on it and say an elevator statement is what you could say before an elevator gets to the 10th floor. What could you say to somebody? When I was in the finance industry, mine was, I provide financial services to people just like you. And that was my elevator statement. So these elevator statements want to be, you know, money's not real, or money's only created as debt, or do you really believe what's on the BBC, or whatever you've picked up tonight, you know, put them in the chat room, share them, whatever they are. And at the end of the day, all we want to try and do is create a bigger congregation.
Right. Listen, Ade, I know this is your show and it's you're hosting it and things like that, but it's your first show, and as how passionate you are, you're getting a little bit, we're getting close to, we've got like 4 minutes left, I think, before we have to say goodnight. So what I want to do is, I just want to, I know it's your show, but you did say the guest interviewing the host. Yes, so I just want you to give us a brief summation of what you're going to be coming up with. I mean, Unique Lee's on at 9:00 tonight on Autonomous Media, so don't miss Unique Lee. He's going to be on at 9:00 right after us tonight. He's standing by. So what I need to do is I need to just get you to just give us a bit of an overview of what your show is going to be like, and then you wrap it up because it is your show.
Okay, dead easy. Let's share all this shit for free, people. Let's try to explain to our friends and family that they might want to press the snooze button, but it's time to wake up. The answer isn't with a politician. The answer isn't with the BBC. The answer is just getting your head round 13 families own the world and the banks and everything. And this world is not fucked. It's supposed to be like this, but it's not for your benefit. And the answer is between the ears of everybody who is not awake. Because once we've got a critical mass of people, all we have to do to get rid of these is simple. Dead simple. Let's ignore them out of fucking existence. Just don't vote. Don't register to vote and don't vote. What are they going to fucking do then? If everybody woke up tomorrow and forgot completely about the tax system and didn't pay any tax, what are they going to do then? Send their 50 people to go visit 50 million people and send them all fines and they're going to tell them to fuck off and not pay in the first place? Let's just start saying no. Just stop voting. What are you voting for? You're externalising your power. Let's get everybody realising opposites distract. They're there to distract you, to make you believe in something that just simply does not exist. As simple as that.
Well, we've got a minute left. Okay. And don't forget, if you're listening to this, stick around because Unique Lee will be on following us at 9:00 with his unique brand of radio. So, right, Ade, it's your show. You wrap up. We've got
as the host. What I hope is that somewhere along the line tonight, somebody out there has got an elevator statement. They're going to say to one person, it's going to wake one person up. And if we've done that tonight, job done. As the host, I'd like to thank my very first guest on Raconteurs 2, Mr. Jason Holmes, to whom I will be eternally grateful for giving me the kick up the arse to stick my head down the rabbit hole and have a look. Tomorrow night, 8 till 10, Raconteurs News with Andy Young and, of course, Jason Holmes. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody at autonomousmedia.net. Nobody would be able to do this without you. And something else, if you're listening tonight and you want to come on to Raconteurs 2 on a Monday night, 7 till 9, and you've got stuff to say, come and talk to me. We want you on the show. This thing is for everybody. That's what this is all about.
Okay.
You can catch the podcast on raconteursnews.com, and of course you can catch it on autonomousmedia.net. I'll see you next Monday, 7 till 9. Don't forget, Unique Lee is Dark Side of the Room. He's up next, and we'll say goodnight with Mr. Niles Barkley.